Camera's moving.
All right. Again, we're shaking. What's going on? You can go ahead. Go ahead, Lisa. All right, we're here. Free smoke every single Friday. Are you like DJ J Star, or are you just J Star?
DJ J Star.
Okay. we got my theme music running? Okay. Listen, y'all, today we are gonna have a powerful conversation around wealth building, wealth creation. And I think it's just important that we start to think wealth. For a very, very long time, I never really thought about wealth. I just thought about how can I make money? And I thought that a certain amount of money would make me wealthy, namely $100,000. Now, this is 10 years ago when I had the desire to make $100,000, but I did think that 100,000 would make me wealthy. I'd say things like, I don't want to be rich, I want to be wealthy, because when I make $100,000, I will be wealthy. And I thought wealth was this picture of a really big house and a really nice car, a really fast one, and being able to have money to do the things that I wanted to do. And I think some of that is partially true, but I was just confusing the idea of making money and wealth. And I've learned a lot about it. And I'm learning that wealth is not built in lump sums. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm wealthy at this point in my life right now, but I'm learning from the three guests that we have today. But what I gather is that that wealth is not built in lump sums. It's almost like we want money to come fast and in abundance, but wealth is built slowly with consistency. Now, I don't think it takes 30 years slow, but what I do understand is the more steps in between you and getting a paycheck moves you closer to wealth, in my opinion. We'll have this conversation. So for instance, if I have a book and I can make the sale directly to the customer of the book, I can make a lot of money, but I can't be wealthy. But when you're buying a house, it's not like you walk up to the house and you give the money and they give you the house. There are some steps in between. Am I right? There's some steps in between, like there's some qualifications. And I think true wealth is designed that way because most people aren't gonna go through the steps. You can set up a website, have a product, run some ads, and it goes direct to the customer pays and it goes in your bank account. There's not many steps. You can make a lot of money that way. You can get rich that way. You can get a really nice house and a really fast car that way. But the faster it comes, the faster it goes, is what I'm experiencing. So there are some steps. There are some people who are knocked out of the grant writing game. I talked to a grant writer, and the grant writer was saying that there's a lot of steps in between writing the grant and like there's a bunch of stuff that they want you to do before you actually approve the grant. I'm like, yo, why did they make it so tough? They said to keep the people out that aren't going to do the work. She said, I believe they add random pointless steps in this process of getting $100 million grant to see if you are the type of person that will go through the steps to get the grant. The bigger the money is, the more steps there are to get it. And it's designed that way because not everybody's going to get this. If you don't go through the steps, you're not the person that can handle it or deserves it. So when I say wealth is built slowly, again, I'm not saying 30 years slowly, but it's not as immediate. But people go to the immediate money because it's just easier and it's faster. There's not a whole lot of steps in the stock market to build wealth in the stock market, right? You put the money in and there's some things that have to happen. Like the company has to go through a good restructuring. You got to wait for annual reports to come out. So people are building wealth through the stock market, but it's not super fast and touch and go. I'm just saying there is a process, a maturation process. You've got to mature to become wealthy. So we have to restructure the way we're thinking about wealth accumulation and the things that we do on a regular basis. Ask yourself, are there many steps between me and my true goal? If there's not, I believe you can make your first $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 with no team all by yourself, pure hustle. You go out there, grind, you go get the money. I believe you can make a few $100,000 just like that. But when you start building a company, you start building a team, there's some steps. It's not just, I hire a bunch of people and they go execute. No, you gotta hire. They do some weird stuff. You gotta say, hey, that was weird. Don't do that like that. And then you gotta go through the training process of figuring out how you can get someone to adopt your thinking, adopt your mindset, there's a process here. So I am having patience with my wealth journey. And I think the lack of patience is keeping a lot of us from wealth because it just takes too long, or there's just too many steps. There's too much stuff I have to do to go get it. Why can't I just go get the money? Which is why I'm starting to lean closer into real estate for the last few years. Shouts out to my partner, Terica Lynn Smith, female real estate guru, is here today. She's helped me build out my portfolio of almost 100 units, and I'm starting to build wealth. But I was thinking, why would I put up $150,000 to make $1,000 a month? It just doesn't make sense to me, coming from a digital perspective. Because I could take $150,000 and I could turn that into $300,000. You buy $150,000 worth of products and you sell them for $300,000. It's going to take work ethic. But I'm like, I don't understand. I don't want to put my money in here. And she's like, well, you don't need $150,000. You can put $30,000. I'm like, still, why would I put up $30,000 to make $1,000 a month? And I'm not even making a whole $1,000. I don't get it. It just didn't make sense to me. But now it's all making sense because the money is coming in smaller portions, but it's more solid. Meaning I was able to do one thing one time and it will continue to pay me. But if you want to make a whole lot of money fast, you got to do one thing 1,000,000 times. And if you want that money to keep coming, you got to do that one thing 1,000,000 more times to duplicate those results. So that is my monologue for today. We really need to get into the conversation because I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to building wealth. But these people do. So I want to introduce our esteemed guest. Hey, drop the, I like the little broken house emoji.
Yeah, I crack
drop. You didn't like it at first.
No, I don't, but I love a crack house.
Yeah, the little, drop your favorite real estate emoji if you plan on building wealth through real estate. If you plan on specifically building wealth through real estate, and this whole conversation won't just be about real estate, it's gonna be about how you can accumulate wealth. So if you are tapped in, I need you to put the real estate house emoji, whatever your favorite one is, because I need to know that y'all are tapped in and y'all checking us out. We got 75 people in here real early today. Okay, this is good. I'm excited about this. So I'm gonna start to the right of me. Kenneth is a mortgage, you're a lender, mortgage lender. Mortgage lender or lender? How you call it?
Commercial mortgage brokerage firm / lender.
Commercial
mortgage
brokerage. See, there's a bunch of steps in there, which means he's wealthy. He's building wealth. So tell us what you do exactly.
So very simply, we're a commercial lending group. We finance residential as well as commercial real estate projects all over the country. On the residential side, we'll finance renovation loans, new construction loans. We'll also finance ground-up developments as well as DSCR or rental loans. On the commercial side, we will finance all 4 verticals of commercial real estate: office, retail, multifamily, as well as industrial. And we'll also look at hospitality. So we only work with investors. We do not work with owner-occupants in any way, form, or fashion.
Why not?
Well, number one, we're not legally permitted to. And there was a law that was passed back in 2010 called Dodd-Frank that prohibits groups like ours to lend monies to individuals who plan on living in a property. So we want to be able to we can only work with investors. And we love working with investors because, investors, they have to kind of take the emotion out. We have to really focus on the math. We have to focus on the ROI. We have to focus on the metrics to make the deal work. So we're taking a lot of that emotion out. And so with our firm, it just works out really well, being able to work with those investors. At some point we may work with owner occupants. Doesn't seem like that anytime in the near future though.
Gotcha. Also, you started this company, lending money to people out of your own pocket first, right?
That's correct.
Tell us that story.
Yeah, so we started back in 2015. I'm a recovering investment banker. So we started to lend monies to folks who needed financing for residential renovation loans and things of that sort. Someone who needed to finance a property that they owned that was in many cases dilapidated, in many cases just needed renovations. We were able to just finance the project, and then of course we put a first trust deed on the deal. And then we came back and we realized that, hey, look, you know what, we can really scale this once we added institutional partners. And so once we started to add those institutional partners, we could just go and we took us to another level. With the addition of those institutional partners, how I define institutional partners, folks like family offices, private equity firms, hedge funds, in addition to debt funds, insurance companies, pension funds. When we started to add those folks into kind of our Rolodex or our team of folks that we finance deals out of, things just got a lot better. So I always, private lenders, commercial lenders, they'll start off in many cases using their own liquidity, but you can really, really scale once you start to understand how to work with institutions, because that's where everyone really wants to get to.
Absolutely. I want to talk about this deal real quick. I'm a lender.
Okay, there you go.
First off,
congrats by the way. Congrats by the way.
I won in Atlanta, where the deal was a friend of mine needed money for a real estate deal. Terica, she's wild, because all my real estate deals I do her, but I gave them some money. And it took a little while for them to pay me back, because they was like, yo, by this time I'm gonna pay you back, and I need you to buy this land for this deal. Long story short, they wound up giving me $90,000 back out of my 110, but they said, well, we owe you $40,000 more, but we will pay you $500 a month on your $40,000 until you pay it, till like interest only, pretty much. Good. So I'm a lender. I get my $40,000 is at work right now.
Congrats.
Making $500 a month. But also I got a deal that's closing next week in New Jersey. And I actually talked to all three of y'all about these blue states. Y'all not feeling it. We'll talk about that. But so they need $125,000. The property's worth $300,000. They're putting up $100,000, and I'll get 14% per month on my money, which is about almost $1,500. So I'll be able to make $2,000 a month, interest only, off of $165,000, and I feel really good about that.
You should.
And this is the reason why we're in lending.
Yes. And it's in New Jersey, which is a blue state. Again, we'll talk about that. But my attorney advised me to get a deed in lieu, because it can take 2 years. If anything happens, it could take 2 years to foreclose on that thing, and it's a wild situation up there. So I'm learning this process. So we too are building wealth.
Yes,
thank you
very much.
All right, let's go, ladies. Next, man, female real estate guru T. What's up?
What's up? Where I look at?
Me.
Okay.
So you're a real estate investor, of course. I guess introduce yourself and what you do.
Hey guys, I'm Terica Lynn Smith, real estate developer and real estate coach. I help you buy real estate and invest.
Good. Is that it, T?
I mean, that's what I feel like saying today. That's good though. Right?
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Tell a little bit of your story and how you got started and where you are now.
Yeah, it's a funny story. So I got into real estate kind of like on accident, to be honest with you, because right before Hurricane Katrina, I was selling magazines door to door, and I would knock on these people's doors and ask them what they do for a living, and go figure, they're all in real estate. And at this time, I had no clue what real estate meant. I didn't even know what real estate was, but after Hurricane Katrina, being trapped in the city for 3 days, and asking God, if you get me out this situation, I'm not going to rely on the government anymore. And I went on to real estate school shortly after Hurricane Katrina, got my real estate license, became a real estate agent, became a real estate builder, became a real estate investor, and now I'm a developer.
I love it. I love it. How many units?
I'm almost at 1,000.
Almost at 1,000.
Yeah, I'm trying to get up to Eddie, you know what I'm saying? 5,000, you know what I'm saying?
Awesome. Eddie, Mr. Benoit, listen, first off, I think me and Steve connected us, And at this point, I'm super excited about real estate. And I'm like, yeah, man, Steve connect me with this guy named Eddie Benoit. They're like, of the Benoit Group? I said, maybe, I don't know. But your name rings bells in Atlanta. So I guess you can introduce yourself, my brother.
All right. It's great being here this morning. My name's Eddie Benoit, and I am the founder and CEO of the Benoit Group. But I'm also the talk show host, yes, and also creator of Shape the Deal that's on YouTube, where we talk about the real estate development process. And, the company is really a commercial real estate development company where we're vertically integrated. So we develop, own, and manage our own portfolio of assets throughout the Southeast, but also in the Midwest. So we have our own development company, property management, construction management, and advisory. So all under one roof.
How long you been doing it?
32 years now.
32 years.
32 years.
What is the biggest deal you've worked on?
The biggest deal I've worked on, I think I'm actually working on the biggest deal right now. It changes every year. So you ask me next year, it's probably a different deal.
Yeah.
But right now we're working on a really cool deal here in Atlanta, which makes it really awesome because it's in an area that's been overlooked, underprivileged, but also has a lot of historic significance.
Where at? West
On
side?
the west side, it's called Bowen Homes. The old Bowen Home site. It's a 74-acre site that was demolished by Atlanta Housing Authority back in 2010, and the site had been sitting vacant. And
Hold on. So they tore down Bowen Homes. That was like a ghetto.
Yeah, exactly.
Project housing.
Yeah,
company,
project
right?
housing, correct.
Yeah.
Yes, project housing, and
But it wasn't on 74 acres.
It's on 74 acres.
Really?
Yes, it's a whole stretch of land. It's massive. So they did a competitive RFP, and we partnered with another.
What is competitive RFP?
It's an RFP project, request for proposals.
Okay.
Where the housing authority is obligated to go through an RFP process in order to solicit qualified and eligible developers that can actually do a project of this scale.
Yeah.
I mean, not only from experience standpoint, but also they need to have the financial wherewithal, to do it too. But there was something very unique about this project is the fact that it was up for a competitive award with HUD, which for a Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant. And that is huge. It's very competitive throughout the country. And we actually, us and our partner out of St. Louis, McCormick Barron Salazar, we brought them in to partner with us on this deal. And we were actually, successful. We were one of the 8 projects that were selected in the country this year.
You're one of the 8 what?
8 projects that were selected.
So you have a proposal. So you have to put together. You buy the land first, but you have to, before you buy the land, you have to submit what you're going to do with the land first.
No, it's a little different. So first of all, we have to go through the competitive RFP where the housing authority selected a developer amongst probably 10 developers that submitted. Okay, you went through a written proposal, they reviewed it, then you went through a oral presentation. From there, they scored you, and they actually have outside consultants that review the proposal. And so a developer is selected. We were the developer that was selected. Once that developer is selected and approved by the board.
I'm sorry, Eddie, real quick. So I'm trying to understand this in my head because I'm thinking the 74 acres is owned by somebody.
It's owned by the housing authority.
Which is the city.
No, it's not the city. The housing authority it's public housing authority. It really falls under the department, HUD.
Yeah.
No one's ever owned it? A person?
Person never, no. I don't know, way back maybe 200 plus years ago, but the housing authority, owned the land. Correct.
I thought everybody owned land. I mean, like all land was owned by somebody.
Well, it is.
Well,
It's actually owned by the housing authority, which is a non, for profit organization.
So they
the
didn't
Department
buy
of
it
HUD.
from nobody.
No, they didn't buy it from anybody. But actually HUD really governs what happens with that land.
So
under
there's-
the auspices of the housing authority.
Okay, and hey, YouTube. Hopefully, some of y'all as slow as me. Okay, so I'm doing this for y'all. Okay, so there are plots of land that the government has just owned, or not the government.
Well, in this case, you have the housing authority owns land, no different than the city owns land, no
Right.
different than Atlanta Public School owns land. The county owns land. So a lot of these different municipalities, can own land. And that land, sometimes, they purchased it outright from an individual, or it's land that was already part of their land banking inventory that that the organization inherited.
Got it. Okay.
Or sometimes land is actually donated to them too.
Got
Like
it.
somebody passed away and they have land and they may say, look, I want this parcel, these 10 acres to go to Atlanta Public Schools.
I see.
Okay.
Okay.
Or I want this house that sits on 20 acres to go to Atlanta Public Schools. Or I want it to go to the Development Authority or to the county or to the Housing Authority for them to further affordable housing development.
Got it. Okay. Does it work like that in Louisiana?
Yeah, it's the same across the board.
Yeah.
It's a federal program.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when Ball Homes was there, all those people that was paying that rent, that was just going to the
Which
Atlanta
one?
Housing Authority.
Yeah, well, the people who were living there, they were very low income residents. So most of them were under subsidized housing. And so basically they were relocated to other properties because the property had reached physical obsolescence.
Got it.
And it wasn't a safe and healthy environment to live in. And so therefore they actually earmark certain funds.
Got it.
To
Okay.
go through a demolition and remediation of the site, but it just sat there vacant until they're able to bring in a developer like us.
Got it. Okay.
But
So it's
the
like-
other grant that I'm talking about is that once we were selected as the developer, the chosen developer, we now had to put in another application to HUD headquarters out of DC to compete for this choice neighborhood implementation grant. And so many housing authorities, throughout the country are competing for this type of choice neighborhood implementation grant after they've been given a planning, grant in order to, submit for that application. But we were one of the 8 that were selected this year.
That's huge.
So we received a $40 million grant from HUD to
Dang.
move forward, with that project. But
Hold on. Give you $40 million to build the project?
well, that 40 million sounds big, but the reality is that that 40 million allowed us to unlock another 88 million in funds that were coming from the Atlanta Housing Authority, the City of Atlanta, and Invest Atlanta, which is the development authority. So that $40 million really leveraged up to 128 million. So to go back to your question, how big is the project? The biggest project, as of last year, we pretty much estimated that this project total build out over 10 years will be about 750 million. But where construction prices are right now, I think by the time we're done, it'll be over $1 billion.
Got $1 billion deal.
Yeah, it'll most likely get close to it. If
Oh my
not, flip
gosh.
it. Yes.
Were you about to say something?
No, that's huge. I mean, like, that shouldn't go over people's head. Like, those grants are extremely hard to get, and they're pretty select. Let me just say that. Like, and so for you to be awarded that is huge. So yeah.
Incredible. Okay. All right. We're about to take it down a level. Okay.
I like this
Because
level.
because my
It's
mind
sexy
is
to me.
Yeah.
because
Turn
I'm
me
thinking.
on.
So I'm thinking like
Talking
first
dirty. Yeah.
I'm about to build.
Yes.
I'm about to build wealth, and my idea of building wealth is buying a house. You know what I mean? 500,000. You might need to put 20% down. 100,000. You start the cash flow, or you buy the land. But there's money that that I guess a lot of people don't understand that is in real estate. So you don't have to have $1 billion to get into $1 billion deal.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is incredible. Okay, all right, guys. If you want to take it down another level, just down another level in the chat real quick. We can go up there, though. We're going to get there. Let me just have this conversation for the panel. Do you believe, let me just get a short answer. Do you believe that real estate is the best way to build wealth? Kenneth?
I personally do. And the reason for that is because I see it every day. It's very rare. There aren't a lot of things that allow you to get into a project with not a lot of cash, not a lot of experience, and be able to literally transform your life in 6 months. I see it quite a bit. And when we've been working with investors since 2015, we've seen them literally transform their lives after doing maybe one single family fix and flip or doing one new construction project. That has changed their lives, not just monetarily, but it also has changed their lives because it's given them another skill set that they can use for the rest of their lives. And real estate is something you can keep building upon, right? Everyone is a lot of people will start off just doing residential real estate. Then they can segue into maybe buying some multifamily. Then they decided to get bigger. They can build commercial real estate, but there's building blocks towards that allow you to keep doing that. And the thing about real estate, this is what I love about real estate, there's a collaboration aspect or component here. When we're going through school and we're taking classes in high school or college, whatever, education level you want to go to, collaborating is, and in many cases is frowned upon. In real estate, as Eddie so eloquently stated, he co-developed this project with another group. And so that's what allows for you to do. So to get involved with other folks to allow you to build your wealth and keep going. So I am partial, I am biased. I think everybody on this panel will be a little biased. But I think if done correctly, if you have the right team and if you have the right projections and forecasts, and if you're just consistent, you can't stop. One of the things we see with a lot of investors is they'll start investing and they won't get out of a project. Things will get hard and they decide, or they made the decision, this is just not for me, which is completely, it's not going to be for everybody, but I believe that consistency and just keep going and understand, keep building your team, keep doing that. Yes, so I am very, very optimistic, and I do believe, and I know I'm a little biased, that real estate is the best way to create wealth for you and your family.
I love it. T, are you done?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. T,
Yes.
is real estate the best way to build wealth?
I think it's one of the most easiest industries for people to get into to build wealth.
Really? Easy?
Yes, I do. I believe that it's extremely easy in regards to, different access points. So there's people who come in as wholesalers. There's people that come in as fix and flippers. You have people such as me and Eddie that does development. You got Kenneth that does financing. All this is still real estate, right? The funny part is he owns as many bricks as probably we own because he got first lien position on a lot of these, So investing in real estate took me from being homeless up under a bridge to being who I am today. So I absolutely believe real estate, is one of the best decisions I've ever done, for sure.
Okay. Eddie, I know this answer.
Actually, I would add one thing to it. I would say that real estate is one of the best industries to learn and build wealth. And the reason why I add learn to it is because it helps you figure out how to prioritize your funds, the monies that you have. Just like you mentioned, initially you were just buying units, but now you're a lender, right? You realize the power of actually getting interest on your money and also having first lien position, on the property, which means you still own the real estate, but yet you're not operating the real estate.
Yeah.
And even if they pay you half of your money back, now you have, all this equity. You could either fire sell it or just take over and you just add it to your portfolio. All right. So over the past, couple of years, I've watched you just be a student of the industry. All right. So you've been learning. You have a totally different thought process.
For sure.
Than what it was before, as opposed to, hey, can I just buy and flip? It's not only that. You want to understand how to diversify your money. And a lot of that is not just sitting down with your investment banker or whomever handles your financial advisor once or twice a year, talk about where you want to, put your stocks and things like that. No, it's something that you do on a daily basis. And I believe it is a lot easier. It is not a high barrier of entry for people to get into the real estate, business, but it is it's a learning process.
For sure.
It's not a get rich quick, scheme. That's one thing I can tell you.
Yeah.
If you come in it to actually just get paid immediately, then that's not the business to get in.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think it is. You look at most wealthy, people, and I'm talking about people who are even billionaires. You look at their balance sheet, their portfolio of real estate, income producing properties is pretty high.
Yeah, for sure. I want to let's jump into some announcements real quick, Nella, because we're about to talk about wealth and really like the mindset behind it. But let's jump into our announcements. Miss Nella, what's up?
Hey, y'all. First and foremost, welcome to Free Smoke. If you are new here, make sure you go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and hit that like button. Share this with a couple of friends, and drop a cracked house if you are ready, or just a regular house, whichever one you choose. If you are ready to go ahead and buy real estate in 2024, because we got some heavy hitters in the building today, and they're going to give y'all all the free smoke, okay? But before we get back to it, I have to give you some house rules. First and foremost, if you are loving the information that is coming out from them today, make sure you drop a super chat as well. Guys, we already kicking it off. First and foremost, the real Elisa Applewhite is in the building today. She's in the building today.
People need to see.
And she
Elisa.
already kicking it off, y'all. She dropped 2 so far. That's just a start for her, okay? And of course, we have the we also have the Let's Kids Play podcast dropping super chat. So thank you so much. We greatly appreciate y'all. This is how you don't just support us as a podcast, but you support the children, because Dave is taking his friends, as you can see, his rich friends, around to kids so they can learn the game, okay? And they can grow up ready to be prepared to become wealthy. So help the next generation by dropping those super chats, and let's get right back to it. Dave, it's on you.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's do that. Zell, check your text. All right, so I want to know how do we defining wealth, or what is some of the mindset behind actually becoming wealthy? Because we hear it thrown around a lot. But see, I'm gonna have you lead off with this. When you start thinking about building wealth, what are some of the conversations that you have with yourself in your mind?
So wealth for me is time. It's my most valuable asset, and being a mother and a wife and full-time ministry, full-time coaching, and everything else that I'm doing, I am literally investing as much as I can to get as much time as I possibly can. And I feel like I can do a lot more and help a lot more people being in, the position that I'm in. So for me, wealth building is not just financial, like that's just a part of it. Like that's a part of the hard work that I've put in over the years, being able to retire my best friends, and we all live this journey together as influencers, and, bring our children with us to travel around the world. All of that to me is wealth. It's not so much of what I have in the bank account. Sure, I'm financially free, but you can be financially free and still not have wealth. I'm wealthy in my marriage. I've been married 19 years. I got a man that loves me unconditionally. That's wealth. My children are in love with me, and I'm in love with my children, and I'm excited about being able to have the time with my grandchildren and not having to worry about, the things I had to worry about growing up in, as their age right now. So, I think for me, wealth is all about time, and I'm always focused on how much income can I buy to get as much time as I possibly can back. And that's my main reason for investing. And aside from that, wealth building, we talk about it a lot, and I think a lot of people associated with just finances, but when you look at the whole thing, you can have a whole lot of money in your bank account and still not have peace. And, if that's you, then you got to ask yourself, what is fulfilling you, because obviously money is not what's fulfilling you. Like you said, you thought $100,000 was going to make you rich, and you get to this point in your life and you're like, yo, that's a drop in a bucket, so For me, it's valuing the time that I have. I know I'm not here forever, and I know tomorrow is not guaranteed. So as much time as I can possibly spend with my loved ones, retiring my husband and my best friends, and being able to do life with them on a daily basis, and choosing if I want to get up and work or not. You know, I'm the gentle age of 38, and I could retire. That feels good to me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm 39.
Yeah, you're gonna get
I'm behind, okay? Kenneth, when we start thinking about wealth, how are you defining it?
I think Tarek said it best, but I'll add freedom as well. Yeah, so obviously we do this because we want to get back our time. We want to reclaim our time. We don't have to work as hard, work as often as we need to, but also just to be able to have the freedom that we need to do what we want, with whom we want, when we want. And so when you're looking at creating wealth, granted, yeah, definitely finances is one thing that's a major component of it, but also just having the freedom to do what you want, when you want, who you want, and also to be able to help other people and grow and help those folks as well. So one of the things, and this was really kind of, when people come to us, when investors come to us, granted they are looking for us or they're coming to us to obtain some type of financing for some type of real estate project. That's like the surface level what they're coming to us for. What they're really coming to us for is to really help them create wealth. It's really to help them buy that property, buy that apartment complex, buy that office building, to allow them to have the wealth to not just for the financial resources, but also to be able to send their kids to better schools, to be able to have access to better health care, to be able to go to the restaurant and vacation where they want to go to. So those are the things that I talk about, right, that really speak to me when it comes to wealth and what wealth is. Because, you know, wealth looks different depending on what part of the country, even what part of the world you're in. You know, people will say what does poverty look like? If you're in, let's say, Mumbai, India, you know, there are some folks who will say poverty, in the United States, poverty could be seen as someone who has a smartphone with cable TV that has 3 meals a day. And, you know, and if you take those same metrics and you apply that to other parts of the country or other parts of the world, that's not necessarily poverty. And conversely, wealth is the same. In my opinion, it's very similar. Folks, it's about time and freedom and just being able to have the choices that allow you to really do what you want to do. Because again, as to Tarika's point, we're not going to be here forever. Yeah. It's best for us to be able to leave some type of legacy to our children, to our offspring, and to me, one of the best ways to do that is by investing in real estate.
Gotcha. I want to kind of like help some of the people in the audience to start going through some strategies, right? Because do you all remember when you were just starting? It was a lot of billions away. Like it was a while. Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
So I want to talk to someone who makes $50,000 a year, and they plan on building wealth through real estate. So I want to ask you first, Mr. Benoit, what are the steps that you would take? This person has a job, makes $50,000 a year. What do I do now? I might have a few $1,000s saved, $2,000, $3,000 in savings. What would you do if you were in those shoes?
If I were in those shoes, first I would look at what my credit score is because that's how you show up from a lending standpoint. Whether you can get favorable interest rates and favorable, loan to costs with these different lenders. So you have many people who are interested in investing, but they're not prepared nor qualified to invest. So looking at your credit score would be the first thing. And if it's low, then you need to build that. Number two,
you're like focus on your credit first.
Yeah, you have to be eligible. It's like, if they say this is, you need to have this criteria in order to participate in this, in this event or whatever, then you have to qualify at the end of the day. And so credit is huge. Okay. All right. So you deal with it every day and as you invest, and most people don't have the credit wherewithal. Right. And they're not worthy for somebody to lend, or they're not worthy for somebody to even invest with them. Yeah. So I tell most investors, okay, have you looked at, this is a great deal, all right, but is this person right here, what's their credit score? What's their financial situation? Yeah. Well, they make the right decisions when things don't necessarily go the right way.
Yeah.
All right. How will they behave?
And so from a lender standpoint, let's have this conversation around credit. What do you see? What do they need?
So this is
Don't
when I
forget your
get
second point.
So very good point by Eddie. But this is when I get to sound like a politician. It depends. And so to that point, to the person who is making $50,000 a year, they've got $2,000 or $3,000 in savings. Let's say they have challenge credit. I never say the word bad credit because credit is essentially a snapshot in time. But let's assume that they really want to kind of go through this real estate venture or real estate endeavor. If they did have challenge credit, I would tell them to do exactly what Eddie said as far as working on their credit. However, if they were really ambitious, they were really proactive, I would tell them to start going out and networking at certain real estate investor association meetings and trying to find somebody who could partner up with them on a smaller deal. Or they could just start wholesaling properties. You know, they could either do one of those two things. But from a lender's perspective, it depends on what type of asset they're buying or what type of product they're seeking. So for example, on a fix and flip, we're not going to be as sensitive to credit, although we still have credit minimums. We're not going to be as sensitive to credit ratings as opposed to a commercial, let's say a multifamily 100-unit apartment complex. We're going to be extremely sensitive to credit because that's a larger project. That's a lot more complex. There's a lot more moving parts there. So it just depends on what they're trying to do. But if they're just starting out, I would recommend either do something to increase your credit score or start wholesaling properties. Or lastly, just start to maybe create relationships with other investors where you do majority of the work. You bring them on as a co-borrower if they believe in you enough. So therefore, you can at least get one or two deals done. So that's why with credit, it just depends on what product type that they're seeking. I hate to sound like a politician, but as a lender, you always get those variables, and you got to be able to.
You're a hard money lender, right?
Commercial lending and hard money is one thing that we also offer.
Okay.
So to kind of be a little more, that word kind of grates at me.
Yeah.
And the reason
You don't like being
Yeah.
hard money?
High interest.
Yeah, it's high interest.
High
You know,
interest.
the reason why I'm not a fan, I've never really been a fan of the word hard money or the words hard money, because what it does, it assumes that the process is going to be very difficult. It's going to be very challenging. It's going to assume that we're going to go through some medieval joust. And that's like farthest from the truth. As a commercial lender, hard money is one item that we do provide. Again, I'm really not a big fan of that word. If you notice, a lot of the quote unquote hard money lenders are taking those words off of their websites over the last 5 or 6 years because it just kind of has a negative connotation towards it. And so
But it's hard money.
it's hard. It's hard. I know what people mean. I just like to say private lending, commercial lending, non-traditional lending. There's so many other ways in which you can say that, you can finesse it. Sounds so much more elegant. But yeah, it just depends. We're completely. I think investors really need to understand that as well, how to go about doing that. But
I'm not going to let you answer this question.
sure.
I want y'all to answer this question. What is hard money lending?
I'm gonna let Eddie answer.
That's the reason why I was saying you need to look at your credit. Okay. So this is from a lender here. So I'm usually borrowing, but that you specifically said somebody that makes $50,000. Okay, and they've got to pay their bills. $50,000 doesn't go a long way. They probably don't have much saved, which means they don't have a large down payment on this investment, which means they're looking for as high leverage as they can on this investment. And so therefore, for you to get the maximum leverage as far as a loan, then that means you need to have pretty decent credit. Yeah. What we don't want them to do is go get this hard money loan. Because the hard money loan, it is a significantly higher interest. It's not a difficult process. It's no different than the traditional loan process. He's right. However, it actually burdens the project because of the requirements. It draws the first blood, okay, in the deal. And so that person is now in a situation whereby if they had to borrow some money from somebody else because they didn't have enough for the down payment, they've got to put up 20 or 25% or 30%, depending on where that down payment is. Then they also have to provide a return to that person, because if they came to David to borrow some money, David wants 14%. That's kind of like a hard money loan, by the way.
Definitely hard money. Definitely hard money.
That's hard money right
Hey,
there.
don't save my game. I'm
Okay, I'm
only
just
doing
saying.
hard money.
I mean,
loans.
I'm just saying. You
If
know,
this money ain't hard to get for
It's-
me,
yes,
I need a big. I need a big
I
return on
understand
my
because
investment.
it was hard for you to make it. Right?
100%, absolutely.
It's allowable.
So, but all we're saying is that person. I mean, the deal has to work relatively well.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No opportunity for slippage. All right, or else that person won't necessarily reap the benefits that they're seeking out of that initial investment.
Gotcha.
So that's what I would say. You need to make sure that your credit is in place and you know how much money you have. Do you have enough money to actually be an investor? Are you qualified to start doing this? Then just the discipline that it requires. Do you have the time? Are you going to do your due diligence? You're going to do whatever it takes in order to make sure that you are overseeing this initial investment project that you're doing especially if you have somebody else's money involved in it.
Yep.
Gotcha.
In addition to
I'm
yours.
gonna answer that too, though.
for it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just be kind of like a little bit, just a little bit different, right? Because I'm one who started, using a tax return and a 530 credit score, right? I need for you guys to understand, when I said in the beginning, real estate have a lot of compartments that you can get started in, right? I told this to David the other day, like if somebody say, yo, I only got, $1,500 or $2,000, but they really want to start investing, this is what you do. Even the children method, you can go on Amazon right now and go buy a bubble gum machine, for a few $100s. You can go negotiate at a high traffic, business, maybe a hair salon, maybe David Shan's studio, maybe one of those type of locations where you can pay them maybe $50 to $100 a month for that space you're going to use within their building. Go buy you 5,000 gumballs, sell them at 50 cents each, and you start generating money. And yeah, that's a little step, but it's a easy entry into getting into building passive income, and let that gumball machine take care of that. You know what I'm saying? Like that first investment, and then you go reinvest it and you continue doing it. Not just gumball machines. You can look into the ATM business, where I have a lot of friends who come to us to be able to place their ATMs in commercial spaces that we have. And it's still a need, believe it or not. One of the most overlooked easy ways to get into real estate is the laundry business, right? People still go to the laundromats, believe it or not. And if you're in those areas, I would definitely be looking at that type of opportunity as well, to be able to get into where you can buy used laundry wash machines and dryers from a previous laundromat that was open, and maybe you spend a few $1,000s and get started into that and just start building. There's so many ways that you can get started, but I definitely agree with what they're saying. Credit is very important when you're getting to that level. I bought my property for $5,000. That's how I started. I got it out the mud. I didn't have a playbook. I didn't have a sofa full of rich friends telling me how to get started at $50,000. I just did it with the knowledge that I had. One of the things I will say is because I started as a hustler, I had to learn how to get out of my business as a hustler and become a CEO, because it gets to a point where you only can hustle your way to a certain point where it's now time to step over to that next level. Mm-hmm. So if I'm gonna have $1 billion in assets, then I need to be able to structure myself as a CEO, which goes back to, I started with a small amount and now I'm where I'm at right now. So it's okay to hustle in the season that you're in if that's all you have. If your credit is not right, focus on getting your credit right while you know what I'm saying, building, with the vending business or even the parking lot business. You know what I'm saying? If you got a parcel of grass that you want to go negotiate a land lease for, you don't even have to own it. Just go say, look, I'll give you $500 a month. You're doing nothing with this, and start charging cars to park on it in a high traffic area. There's so many ways to get started, but I'll get off my soapbox.
But I like to add something. I love the reference to the bubblegum machine, because I'm a little older than most of y'all in here. And so I remember the bubblegum machines outside of Kmart. When I would go to Kmart, one of those stores. Okay, it's
I just
more.
laugh. These kids don't know nothing about no Kmart.
That's right.
Old
Coming
school,
out of
boy.
any type of shopping center.
Yeah, for
Whether
sure.
it's a Kroger or a Publix of today, you'd always have these little bubblegum machines outside, okay? And there's a nickel, to get a bubblegum, a jawbreaker. Maybe it's 10 cents. So there's a guy who actually owned all of them. And I know him very well. He sold that business for over $200 million.
The gumball machine?
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes.
So he planted gumballs outside of Kmart's.
And he sold it for over $200 million.
$200 million?
He sold over $200 million literally about probably 15 years ago.
Wow.
Unbelievable. Okay. Like my sister says, real estate is an octopus. I like it. All right, so your second step, and we'll just build these conversations off your steps. What's your second step? First, focus on your credit. Let's work on that. And then number 2, what are we doing?
Number 2 is really, again, I mentioned just the discipline. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready, to actually invest? Because this is something that you're doing on your spare time. Do you just want to play with it, or do you want to be serious about it? Specifically, if you're getting other people's money involved. That's what, to me, is the biggest issue, out there with people who want to go into real estate investment, and they're just really not prepared to do so. And the deal looks great. Like, hey, man, I could build this home. I've got this slide. I could build it for $150,000, but the homes here are going for $300,000. So everybody sees $150,000 in profit. What they don't realize is, did this person do their full due diligence?
That's right.
Can you really build it for $150,000? Okay, do you really have the right contractors or subcontractors to do this? Are you really designing the house that could actually generate sales at $300,000 mark? And before you know it, it costs them, you have all these cost overruns. Now it costs them really $225,000 to finish the house. And it takes him a longer period of time, and so therefore he's charging a lot more interest, all right, on that loan. And then he's licking his chops because he's like, hey, I have first lien position on this property. And it doesn't go well, I'll just sell it, and I'm still going to be profitable. But then if David has some money co-invested in this deal, that money's at risk because you still have to pay 6% commission.
Yeah.
Okay, when you sell that home. So it's not, that $300,000 is not net, to the investment itself. So then it sells, and maybe there's a profit margin of about, $30,000, and they barely made it through. And that's if the property doesn't sit for a long time.
Yeah.
And it sells relatively quickly. So you went from $150,000 of potential profit to about $30,000 in profit.
Yeah. How do we start to educate ourselves on building wealth in real estate? Not building wealth, but how to make this thing profitable. How do we start the education process? Do we read Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Yeah, you need to, reading is important, but also you need mentors.
Yeah.
Okay? People who've already done it and that are doing it. And ask them the questions and just keep them, kind of like, on your speed dial as you're going through the process. Let them, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you meet with me, I will tell you all the things you need to do, from step-by-step basis. Yeah. But you have to be willing to do it too.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the difference. You have to be willing to do it. But a lot of times, most people go into real estate investment and they think that they could actually get wealthy real quickly. Mm-hmm. It's a game changer. No, it's a steady, process. And you don't want to bite on more than you can actually chew. Yeah. You can't go from building one, a lot at a time, and then before you know it, you've done it relatively well. And it wasn't because you were that great. It's because the market was bullish. Yeah. It didn't matter what you did. Yeah. This property sold itself. Okay? It's not because of you, not because of your brilliance. And so therefore you've done well and you think you're on top of the world. So now you're going down the street and you're trying to buy 10 lots and develop those 10 lots at a time. And guess what happens? Just look at what's happened recently. Less than a year ago, people were offering anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 over the asking price. Yeah. Okay, of a home. and they were battling, to see, how quick they can get the property.
Has that ever been like that before, or
It's happened
Yeah, it
before,
happens before.
and before the recession, it was like that. But then it changed.
Yeah.
Okay, and so therefore, if you were actually, kind of building your little portfolio based on people overpaying, for properties.
He said little.
Yeah, because that person's at $50,000,
That's right.
$50,000 person. Okay, you're building your little portfolio. You're doing one at a time, and so because you can't go out there and invest in 100 units.
That's right.
You haven't done it before.
That's right.
And that means you're going to depend on other people's money,
Yep.
and that's a lot of money to put at risk for somebody that's a novice.
Yeah.
And so therefore, you have to be very careful, because the market changes very quickly.
Yeah.
So you went from a market that was a seller's market, and it changed real quick because interest rates went up considerably. And now, therefore, guess what? You have properties that are actually, discounting their prices.
Yeah.
absolutely? With so talk to me. Y'all were on real estate before the crash, the 2008, 2009, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Are we seeing signs of that now?
2008, 2009 was more of kind of like a mortgage banking crisis. This is more kind of like, I wouldn't call this a crisis. I just think it's a moment in time.
Yeah.
This is a cyclical process. Typically, cycles have to happen every 7 to 10 years. So I wouldn't necessarily call it crisis.
See, he's making the money. That's why he's saying that. I call it a crisis. I'm the developer.
Yeah.
And people are still paying him. Okay.
and another reason why, because people will say interest rates are high, and granted, interest rates have risen, 11 times since 2022. So they have definitely risen significantly over the last couple of years. But if you literally look at like a 50-year map of where interest rates are at, they're typically around this point, right? They're around, I think U.S. prime rate right now is 8.5%. Fed's funds rate somewhere like 5% or so. But they've been around this number.
What's the difference between the 8 and the 5?
It's just the spread that the Fed funds rate's the rate that banks tend to lend to each other. So banks will lend monies to each other and things of that sort and borrow from each other. That 300 or 3% difference is the numbers that that's the spread, right? So the U.S. prime rate is 8.5%. So you'll see, and then certain products are attached to U.S. prime, certain products are attached to U.S. Treasuries. But that 3% difference is kind of aligned with where we're at now as well.
And what's
Somebody
critical
translate
about
that for
that
me?
too? What's critical
Somebody
about
explain that in English.
that? It's a lot of explanation. But one of the things is that he's right. When you look at the empirical data, historically, what rates have been, yes, they've been around, what the rates are, today. You've seen over the past 3 weeks, there's been a sharp decline, in interest rates.
From what to what?
I mean, from 6.7, like with a lot of the FHA, lending that we deal with, Fannie and Freddie went from 6.7 to 6% as recent as, Wednesday.
That's a sharp decline.
That's a sharp decline. It makes a big difference in your deals. But the problem is that most people who are early into real estate development or real estate investment, they don't have the history.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay? They don't know what it looked like 20 years ago or 30 years ago. He's absolutely right. Everybody knows what rates were as of a few weeks ago, and what they'd like it to be 2 months from now.
Yeah.
Or we're comparing it to what? Kind of the 2%, 3% that we were just in.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, that's the thing that a lot of people are making the comparison. Now, I will say that there is a little bit of a crisis there because home prices are they're still increasing at a pace that wages are not increasing. And so you have a lot of this, which is and you couple increased home prices with wage inflation or wage deflation. In addition to, you still have higher interest rates. You can make a very strong argument that is a crisis. So you've got home prices just keep going up and keep going up and keep going up. And now you've got wages are just not matching that number. And then you tack on higher interest rates. So there's obviously a challenge there. That is, to your point, I would assume that's essentially where I would see a crisis. But as far as the interest rates, it's a function of time, but it's harder and harder and harder for more and more folks to buy homes, not just because of the higher interest rates, but because of those home prices and because of, folks are not getting the wages that they really need to get to buy those properties.
Yeah, I saw a something on Instagram or TikTok. And I hate to bring Instagram and TikTok into this very serious conversation. But I saw something, it was an image, and it showed that the amount of money people are paying for buying homes is more expensive than the amount of money people are paying to rent homes. And for some reason, there was like some sort of problem with that. Did y'all see that? Mm-hmm. Is that real or that was just TikTok?
We see that all the time.
We say it all the time. It's cheaper to rent than it is to buy.
It wasn't always like that though, no? Because I mean, I remember thinking if I buy it, then I'll be saving. It's not as expensive.
But those graphs like that to me are a little bit misleading.
It was TikTok.
Because the reason for that is because they're a little bit misleading because they'll let people, they never take into the equation the equity that you're building when you own a home. They never take into equation the debt pay down that you own when you own a home. Mm-hmm. They never take into equation the taxes that you save when you own a home. So there's so many benefits to home ownership. So those things, I call them like teaser graphs. They're just they're like clickbait. They're, hey, look at this, and hey, this is what we're saying. But there's so many benefits to home ownership that folks really need to kind of focus on. I take those graphs with a grain of salt because they're trying to present information in a very short time frame, and they don't give people, a lot of folks who are watching information, the data behind it. Because if you sit here and tell me, well, there's so many benefits, I'm at home ownership, I'm gaining equity, I'm gaining tax benefits, I'm gaining a skill set. There's so many benefits there as opposed to that as well.
Okay, so it's wise. And I'd like to hear this too. Gary Vee is on TikTok again, but Gary Vee said you shouldn't buy a home, and these millennials shouldn't buy homes. They need to rent because they need to put that money into like businesses or something like that.
It's like you're giving Dave Ramsey advice to everybody. So I'm sorry. Did you finish that?
Yeah, I was done.
It was just balling inside of me. Yeah. So I don't think that everybody should just be put in one compartment, right? There's some people who don't have the discipline of having home ownership and are owning a home and really need to know, the importance of home ownership, right? And what I mean by that is paying your bills on time, right? And not losing your house to foreclosure, because it's a lot harder to get another house once you go through that foreclosure process. Also, I think that, for those people encouraging everybody in the world to just rent, I just think they're out their mind, because the amount of wealth I accumulated from the equity, like I got so much equity in my actual investments that I literally can go buy the same investment 3 or 4 times over. Yeah. You can't do that renting. The other thing is when you're renting, you're almost homeless. Yeah. Because the moment that landlord want to kick you out and or sell and it's not negotiated or whatever the case may be, you now trust in somebody else. Now, somebody may argue, the bank can do that to you too, right? The bank got to go through a whole entire process and prove that you're not keeping your commitment to the agreement of what you agreed to in that promissory note. Yeah. They can't just kick you out of your property, right? A landlord, they can give you a 30-day notice and be like, you got to go, depending on the terms in the lease. So I always grit my teeth when somebody say everybody should be renting right now in a market like this. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
All right, I'm not going to bring up any more TikTok conversations.
That kind of grates on me as well. When you make overarching themes about what everyone should be doing, that to me is always a little bit of a challenge because, again, home ownership is one of the the easiest way to create wealth is buying a house, right? Mm-hmm. That's the largest asset that most Americans will make. Most people will make, just buying a house. So why would you dissuade someone from doing that? Obviously, I understand there's clicks and views, and I definitely am still a fan of Gary Vee, but that's one point I just not agreed with at all.
Gotcha. We have lunch being catered, y'all. Y'all eat cheesesteaks? You eat cheesesteak? You don't eat cheesesteaks? No?
Is it because the meat little?
I don't eat meat.
Oh, we got salmon. We got a salmon one though. Yeah. Oh yeah, cool. So I see cheesesteak. Actually, I can tell we were actually talking about I want to be able to promote their business and become a business partner. So
Nice.
there's a reason we're here. But only because I had their cheese. Now anything I say after this is like a sales pitch. But me and my wife, we saw that they had the best cheesesteaks. Yeah, you can start delivering. The best cheesesteaks in the city. He's going to be the salmon.
Yeah, we're making the chicken and salmon right now. I'm just
Cool.
So dinner is fresh.
Oh, for sure. Terica is the salmon. She's like, I don't want nothing. I don't know onions or peppers or veggies or nothing like that. I'm like,
salmon
all right, we
too.
got you. Yeah, and I got a salmon for you, for sure. We got it coming. So we got the so icy cheesesteaks being catered.
I'll take the salmon if you.
Y'all, first
I'm
off,
trying to be.
you gotta have a bite of the beef.
I'll take a bite of it.
Yeah,
I'll
you gotta
try
take a
to
bite of
it.
it.
Yeah.
And then we got some for our studio audience as well. And we're gonna be when we were having a conversation about the right now they're in a ghost kitchen, but phenomenal product. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, yo, we need to get a restaurant because I could drive some traffic to a restaurant, right?
Yeah.
But in my mind, I never want to build out something that I don't own. I did that before in the studio, and I just don't like the idea of improving someone else's property to occupy it. I'm like, my only thought is I want to buy something. Is that wise? That thought process? And if it's not, tell me why not. See?
Why you always start with me?
Because you're closest to me. And you be making the funniest faces. Like, she be making...
I just don't have a poker face, right? So I don't think that it's a bad decision because I think that there's some spaces that, you can negotiate with a landlord and build out, very custom to what you want and get exactly what you want and not have to have all the expenses of a building. Some people don't want to have to deal with all of the roof issues and parking lot issues and all of that type of stuff. So if you're one that's like, let me just build out my suite and be able to, just pay you a flat fee a month. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I also don't think there's nothing wrong with owning your suite in regards to that. So I'm down the middle. I'm building out our podcast studio in a suite that I do not own, but I also want to make sure that this is something that I really, really like. But guess what? I negotiated for the landlord to pay the first $100,000 of the renovation, and then whatever's left after that, I'll pay for it. So what that means is that I'm going to stay under $100,000 to build out this podcast studio, and he's going to fund it, and I'm just going to be his tenant for that amount of time. Now, is he charging it back in the gross rent? Absolutely. But I'm okay with that because at the end of the day, I'm making this initial investment to make sure that this is where I want to be in this lane.
Eddie, you are going to be my business partner. I'm saying, yo, so icy at ATL, they got the best cheesesteaks in the city, and I really wish y'all ate beef. Try it. Just go on one bite real quick. Did you bite? Just go on and hit one time. It's amazing. I'm saying we need to go from this ghost kitchen to a restaurant. And I need to find a building. Would your first thought be we need to buy a building or are you leasing?
No, my first thought wouldn't be to buy a building. It's
I'm a
proof
terrible
of,
business partner.
proof of concept. Proof of concept. I know it looks delicious, just on the way you're chewing it.
Incredible.
So it's incredible. But at the same time, you need to go from the ghost kitchen to a full operation. You want to control your expenses. Okay, so yes, the food tastes great, but you need to see how it does. Just from a sales standpoint, how much of the market can you actually draw? And what kind of revenue generation each storefront, can actually produce. Those are some of the metrics that you need to establish first in your first, 2-3 years of operating. So it's okay. I agree with her, like to actually lease a space. Maybe you do your first lease as a 3-year lease with some, relatively lenient out clauses. If things don't work well, again, don't focus on the food. You got to focus on the business.
Let's go.
Okay? You got to focus on the business. All right? There are many restaurants that have great food that actually shut down because the business, their business acumen wasn't there. All right? As far as how they managed it and operated. So since you'd have the opportunity to have the proof of concept within those first 2 to 3 years, and if it's just busting through the seams as far as what your revenue generation is and also your bottom line, profit, then you can decide and say, you know what, we need even more space, as opposed to we started off with, I don't know, 1,200, 1,500 square feet. We actually really need presence, store of 4,500 square feet. And as opposed to renting at this point, we have enough information as far as how the store has performed on an annual basis over the past 3 years. We can afford to buy this building because we don't see this product going anywhere. It is solid and it can only grow. And maybe you'll even have, other storefronts in other areas. But I wouldn't go buy a building, for a restaurant, up front.
Kenneth, be on my side, man.
No, I'm on the same.
I need help here.
They have. I have to agree with both Eddie and Terica on this one as well. If it's a startup, because we have this conversation with a lot of investors and obviously new business owners, they're looking to buy a building to do whatever business that they're looking to do, and it's a startup. The startup hasn't necessarily generated revenue as of yet. Even if it has generated revenue, you still want to manage your costs, as Eddie stated, right? So when you buy a building, you have fixed costs now that you really have to focus on. You've got so many other ancillary expenses that you really have to worry about, in addition to generating revenue for the business so therefore it can sustain itself. So it's best to kind of have that proof of concept, being able to generate revenue, make certain that your expenses are down, implement the company culture, make certain that you guys are strong core values, but also make certain that you're profitable for a couple of years. And then when you're able to kind of show that, a banker will feel a lot more comfortable with giving you a building or financing the building for you. Because if you just started, trying to obtain the building, and many people can qualify for it, you don't necessarily have to take traditional bank financing. You can sell or finance a project. There's so many things you can do. But you don't necessarily have that revenue that you need, those expenses, that data that you need in order to kind of obtain better financing terms. So again, you can definitely do it. I personally wouldn't recommend it.
If you're going to buy a building, then you need to look at it as a real estate investment.
That's right.
That's
Okay,
what I would be
regardless
thinking.
of the restaurant.
What's in there?
The restaurant could be one of your tenants or the tenant, but I wouldn't buy the building because you're putting the restaurant in it. It needs to be that if the restaurant, doesn't necessarily succeed, then you can put, another use in there.
I tell you?
The same
What I
use
tell you?
we
I
had.
heard them. Yeah, what I tell you? That joint goes crazy.
The same use that we talked about for Cleveland, right? It's the same thing, right? Just be the landlord of the business and have it two separate entities. That way, that business is going to pay rent and it's going to be lucrative. Now that makes sense.
So you've been to my office, development. We've got other, tenants, okay, there. But however, in our office suite, the space that we occupy, each one of our companies actually pays rent, to the ownership of this commercial development, which is me. Yes.
Okay. So your business
So they have to pay rent. Yes.
That's right.
If they don't pay rent, then it's a problem.
So, okay, let's say, for instance, I'm going to be a partner in this restaurant. I would go buy the building. And then
You
that
own it in a
company
different
that
entity.
I'm a partner, yes.
Yes. And then so you as a partner in this restaurant still has to pay rent
That's right.
to the partnership that owns the building,
Okay.
which you're
And-
also
Speaking my language.
in that partnership.
That's right.
I like it.
And put it on Cleveland.
And so you wear two hats.
For sure.
If the rent's
I like this
delinquent, then you're sitting across from your partners in the restaurant like, where's my rent?
That's right.
Okay. And then you turn around and go on the other side of the table like, hey guys, sales is pretty low. Can you give me a concession?
Unbelievable. Okay, that actually makes sense. Okay, we're back to the $50,000 a year maker, and we're trying to build wealth through real estate. I don't own anything right now. And see, I'm mad you start with this. You said, you always tell me that real estate is an octopus and you got to figure out your lane. Which tentacle of this octopus are you starting out? $50,000 a year, I got a few $1,000s saved, but I need to start building this. I need to start this process of building wealth through real estate.
Yeah. So, I mean, they have real estate investment trusts that they can get started in if they want to just get started, like, with a small amount of money, right? Like $200-300, they can go and invest in a REIT or something like that. Again, I go back to the gumball machine. I think that that's a very easy form to get in. I mean, I used to have vending machines throughout the mall. I just pay them $250. They measure it per the square foot of what I have, and I made sure that I had $500 worth of snacks in that vending machine, so that way I can cover the rent and cover the actual expenses for the snacks that's in there, and then be able to profit a few dollars afterwards. So I think for me, I'm all about just finding a way to make it work, and don't get caught up in all of the actual the red tapes of real estate. I agree with Eddie 100% that you have to be disciplined. So if you're inconsistent and you start a gumball business and you don't go fill your machine, you don't keep up with it, you don't go do what you're supposed to, you're still not going to make money, right? So I really think discipline is the first thing to starting, with real estate investing. And then, having that discipline and staying on top of those things is going to allow you to go to the next level. I would also say that, those that are like, they don't have any extra money, then go to YouTube University and just get knowledge. Just go listen and learn a foreign language and just hear what people saying about real estate, and start going to network meetings like, Kenton said, just going to have, conversations with other people. And before you know it, somebody may want to bring you in as a partner and say, well, hey, you have a little extra time. Maybe you can go to the store and be our runner and do this, and we pay you 5 or 10% on a deal. What it may look like for you getting started may be very different than what it looks like for everybody else. So,
Terica Lynn Smith.
You
make $50,000 a year.
Yep.
You are the manager at Chick-fil-A.
He brought me all the way back.
For 4 years.
Okay.
And something's got to shake. And you're like, real estate is going to be my path to wealth. What is Terica Lynn Smith doing?
I'm going back to get my real estate license and go to real estate and start selling real estate. That's where I started at. I mean, you asked me where I started. I remember my first year in real estate made $5,000. I'm like, yo, I could have worked at McDonald's. So now you got me at Chick-fil-A. So I'm still a realtor at this point. I mean, it was a few $100 to go get my real estate license and, go learn how to sell people homes, and just being in that language. I mean, I would start there for me.
Cool. Kenneth, you make $50,000, you regular average life, you're trying to build wealth through real estate. What avenue are you going in when it comes to real estate?
Starting off, if I make $50,000, I would definitely want to find a mentor who I could learn from. Number one, and I would start networking. I would watch as much videos as I can, and I would start networking. So I try to gain as much knowledge as possible, start networking, but then I would just start wholesaling. Very similar to kind of anyone who doesn't necessarily understand or know what a real estate wholesaler is. They act in a way of a real estate agent, but they're not licensed. So think of them as almost like an investment property locator. It doesn't really cost any money to start. It doesn't cost any monies to It doesn't cost any monies to start. It doesn't cost any monies to kind of get into that side of the business. But you can start as a real estate wholesaler. I've seen so many wholesalers, so many people start as an investment property locator and kind of start there, and then kind of segue into renovating homes, and then they segued into buying rental properties. They segued into buying multifamily properties. But doing that, or I may even consider a career change. So another great way to get into real estate investing is to go work for somebody who actually is in real estate. If you want to be a developer, consider working for a developer. If you want to be in real estate finance, consider working for a real estate finance group. If you want to be a real estate architect. So when people say they want to get into real estate, I always have to ask, like, what do you want to do? There's so many facets of real estate. There's so many departments. There's so many components to it. It's one of the biggest sectors of our economy. So if you may want to consider a career change, if that's not an option, then I would either consider getting starting becoming a wholesaler, because you don't need to get a license, or even consider becoming a real estate agent. And then, another thing you could also do is just to start, think about trading land or selling land. Start small. You don't have to go after the $1 billion projects. Those projects are far and few between, and they only give those projects to the most experienced and the most astute of developers. But you can go after some of the smaller projects and start to network. You know, half of this industry is, in my opinion, half of this industry is what you know. The other half is who you know. Actually, let me break it in thirds. A third of this industry is what you know. A third of this industry is who you know. And then the other third is who knows you, what they knew about you. And so just kind of looking at that and understanding it, start networking, but also take action. Because I've personally experienced a lot of investors they'll have conversations with us, and a year later I always ask, hey, are you starting? Are you once going to get started? And they never do anything. They never start. And so if you never start, you can never win. So it's best to at least start the process. Even if it's unsuccessful, you have to keep going.
Love it. Got a caller?
No, we don't have a caller, but we got to make an announcement to get the callers.
Let's do it. Okay. Listen, y'all. If you have a question, okay, any question about building wealth, these are all entrepreneurs. If you have a question, send a text message to 404-421-5732. Nella will answer that text message, and we will call. Well, you will call. She'll give you instructions so you can call it. You'll call them, or they'll call you.
I'll have my people call their people.
Yeah. But send the text. Say I got a question that I want to answer live, and we will set it up and give you further instructions. So send a text to 404-421-5732. Our something is standing by. How does that sound more professional?
Huh?
Our assistants are standing by. Customer service is standing by. It's really Nella, but
I'm standing by.
Nella is standing by. Okay, send a text. Where would you start?
It's an interesting question because I was that guy. Couple of years into my career, so I worked for a construction company called Skanska. It was one of the largest construction companies. They actually recruited me out of college and moved me to Atlanta. But I always knew I wanted to be in real estate development, but I really wanted to learn how to build first. Yeah. And so when I left them about 3 years into working for them, I actually was at that $50,000 mark, plus or minus, and wanted to invest in my own real estate. At this point, I was working for a real estate development company. Okay. And so I was seeing it, every day. I was in the trenches, learning the business. Had a lot of people there who were, senior in the business that I could actually go to from a mentorship. But, from my individual investments, because of the fact that I was working there every day, it helped me, kind of determine what was the best investment for me. So I started with the buying and flipping, but I would buy one property at a time. And so I looked at
buy
risk.
a property, flip. So
Turned around and flipped it. But risk was the biggest thing that I heard at work. Every day you would hear risk assessment. So I started looking at myself, if I want to invest, outside of investing into my first home, that I lived in, right after, college, I was like, if I'm going to invest into investment properties, then, what are some of the risk factors that I need to really pay attention to? And from a risk standpoint, I wanted to make sure that my costs weren't out of hand. All right. As far as the rent, I didn't want to do any ground up construction because too many variables. I have a full-time job.
Right.
Okay. I can't have a job in Buckhead that also requires me to travel, but yet I'm building, a property in Stone Mountain.
Yeah.
Just doesn't work because during the day I need to be at work or I may be out of town somewhere.
Yeah.
So it was best for me to buy a rehab, something that I could rehab. It was value added. Buy something that's probably in foreclosure or deed in lieu of foreclosure where I could actually buy it a lot less than what the replacement value is. Okay? So I looked at that side from a risk standpoint. Well, I know I'm buying it cheaper than anybody else in this neighborhood. So that gives me a competitive edge. Number two, I looked at cost for renovation. All of the major renovation items that you would typically get a subcontractor to come in and oversee, the laborers. I decided that I would oversee those. So I would cut that cost off. So it's
But
like,
in the beginning, you don't know what you're overseeing.
but
though,
the thing is I had the background.
Yeah.
Remember, I have, went to school of building construction. So I built high rises. So this to me was, relatively easy, but it was just a matter of time. So going back to the discipline, I decided that every evening after work, whether it was 5, 6, or 7 o'clock, I would dedicate about 2 hours per evening. And that's before hanging out and going to the club. All right? I'd have a change of clothes afterwards, ready to
still
go.
gonna go to the
but
club,
I'm still
but
going to go to the
the
club
first
because at that time, I'm about 24, 25 years old. All right?
Full head of hair.
I mean, yeah, I had hair at that time. It was a lot lower. But I decided that that's what I would do. I would put about 2 hours, every night, and I would get the laborers, pick them up around the Targets, the Walmarts. They come work with me, and whether we were laying tile or we were painting, whatever it was, so I was cutting my costs down and making sure I had it under control. And so, the renovation would take a little bit longer period of time, but at the same time, it cost me a lot less to do the renovation. I'd go out and I'd choose my own tile. I'd go different places and get the best product, best quality, but for a lot lower price. Yeah. So if my $30,000 renovation probably was worth really maybe, $40,000 of cost or $50,000 of cost. So I managed my risk that way. The last part was that I didn't buy a home that I felt as though that I could not carry that mortgage for at least a year. If something went bad in the market, that I didn't have enough surplus cash after I paid all my bills based on what my income was, to actually carry that home. Yeah. In the event that something happened in the market, it didn't sell, fast. I never had a situation where it didn't sell fast. Mm-hmm. So I was always lucky, but I only did one at a time. Okay, and I would also make sure that I was forecasting. Look, be realistic. This is not going to take 3 weeks for you to do. Yeah. All right, it's going to take you literally 2 months to complete this renovation, and you need to build that in your budget. Yeah. And so assessing the risk was a major factor, for me when I was that guy at $50-some thousand, and I wanted to make my first investment outside of what Kenneth said, my first home, which was my biggest investment at the time.
I like that. Let's talk about some numbers, because numbers tell the whole story, right? Mm-hmm. So if you are going to invest in a business, you have to go see the business and kind of talk to the owner and all that kind of stuff, right? But in real estate, it seems like it has to match up on paper, right? Like what blindly, and I'm not saying you go blindly look at houses, but if you're going to blindly look at the deal, what are the numbers that we're considering? And I'm sure all of you have your own formulas, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll start here. Sure. Give me some numbers I need to consider when we start looking at a good deal or bad deal from a lender perspective. What are you investing in?
So a couple of things. We look at number 1, location, number 2, the property, number 3, the individual. Location, obviously, if you're in a major market, we would need you to be in a major market. It's harder to finance deals in rural markets just because there's just less people. From a property perspective, we look at, and it depends on what type of asset you're buying, what type of asset you're looking to acquire. Let's assume if you're the $50,000 person, you probably want to do probably a fix and flip. And with that fix and flip, we look at the purchase price, we look at the as-is value. We want to make certain that the purchase price is approximate to the as-is value. I think Eddie said early on the conversation that about last year, early part of last year, people were overpaying for properties. $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 over asking. It was a common thing. We're starting to see the pain that a lot of people put themselves in now because we're having to refinance a lot of the debt that they couldn't get themselves out of. Right. But when you overpay for an asset from a lender's perspective, if we look at every single deal through the eyes of a foreclosure, we have to make the assumption, no matter how attractive someone looks on paper, no matter how much money they have in the bank, no matter how experienced they are, no matter how great their credit is, there's a possibility for foreclosure. So we want people to buy properties approximate to the as-is value. And how do we determine the as-is value? We determine that through an appraiser. So the appraiser is going to set an as-is value. Now we're going to look at the renovation budget. We want to make certain that the renovation budget can be defended. We don't want you to, we never want to underfund a project if it's a renovation project. So that's one thing a lot of newer investors really need to really focus on. You never want to have a project underfunded, because once it closes and you sign loan docs, if there's any type of surprise, if there's any type of additional renovations needed, that comes out of your pocket, not ours.
Got it.
And then number 3, we look at the completed value. What exactly will the home sell for when it's fully renovated? We look at comparable sales at trying to make certain that the numbers are valid, and we want to make certain those are okay. Those are what we look at in the property. Now, from a lending perspective, we also take a look at loan to cost, and we look at a thing called loan to value. So loan to cost is another way of saying if there's a construction component attached to this deal, what's the percentage against the total cost? If my renovation budget is $100,000, my purchase price is $300,000, my total cost is $400,000. So we're going to lend at either the lower of the loan to cost or loan to value. And so those are the numbers that we pay a lot of attention to. We also want to make certain that the borrower obviously has skin in the game. There are folks who will promote 100% financing products. Never been a fan of those. I think investors need to have equity in the deal.
I'm sorry,
because
100% financing. Meaning the bank just...
Yeah, you've got a lot of people. There are folks who will promote 100% financing in a deal. Hey, you can get in a deal with absolutely no money out of your pocket. Not true. Well, let me take that back. Money still has to come into the deal. It doesn't necessarily need to be your money. You can partner up with someone. But from a lending perspective, we do not do 100% financing projects, right? So we want to make certain that the investor has the resources to not just get into this project, but stay in the project and then exit out of it successfully, either through a sale of the property or a refinance. So we're looking at those things, and we want to make certain that folks are really understand. So another good metric at our firm, we have what we call the 30% rule. If there's any type of renovation type of project, we want to see that the borrower has at minimum 30% of the total cost available to them in liquidity. And what that means, that tells us that, and this is for renovation, single family renovation loans. It doesn't necessarily apply to like some of the commercial projects, but we want to know that they have the resources to stay in this project, because many times a lot of investors, they have the money to get into the project, but then they don't have enough money to survive or stay in the project. And that's the challenge. So the 30% rule works like this. If your total cost is, let's say, $400,000, we would want to, let's say $300,000, $200,000 to buy the property, $100,000 to renovate the property. Your total cost is $300,000. We'd want to see 30% of that in your account in some form or fashion. Or we can take the aggregate of multiple members in the entity. So we'd want to see $90,000 in that account. And it can come from IRAs, 401ks, money markets. We'll give you credit for that. So that liquidity component really helps us out quite a bit, because that 30% really represents, number one, you have the monies to close. Number two, you have 3 months of monthly payments. Number three, you've got monies to start the renovation, because you're going to have to start that renovation with your own resources. And then number 4, you still have monies to live. So that person who's making $50,000 a year, we want to know that this project is going to be a successful one. It has to be. If it's not, then we're going to be in trouble.
I love it. T, give me your formula. What are we looking for? Just give me some numbers to consider when I'm getting into real estate, and whatever aspect that you like to talk about.
Yeah. So, I think all investors pretty much use the same formulas. Fix and flips is going to fall up under the 70% rule. I use the 60% in markets like this, where the interest rates are a little bit high. I'm just a little bit more conservative. For multifamily, you can use the 1% or the 2% rule. I think what's important is, although we talking about all these different rules and formulas, like, you have to educate yourself on these things, because we can say all of this in a short 1 or 2 hours and not be able to go deep into it. But there's so many formulas that are important when investing, especially like just say multifamily, the cap rate, the gross rent multiplier. Like, there's so many different components in real estate, I can't just name 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 formulas. I'm not a lender. It depends on the actual deal I'm looking at. So for a development, I'm looking at my feasibility study, and I'm looking at, the hard and soft cost, and just trying to get an idea of what all of that looks like. And so I think a lot of that is going to come with mentorship and having someone to watch your blind spots and knowing how to analyze these deals. Because if you've never gotten into real estate, and like Eddie said, and you have no clue what you're doing, you're going to get a haircut straight up. So we can give them 1, 2, 3, and 4, but these 1, 2, and 3, 4s can't be your Bible. You have to do, you have to like get into the word and understand more of what is actually going on, and have people to be able to pour into you. So there's so many formulas, you can, learn them all, but I just, my 1, 2, 3, and 4s, it's coming from experience. It's not coming from a newbie. Like a new person is not going to know how to figure out the 1% rule in a multifamily deal, and or a 70% rule on a fix and flip, and or a BRRRR method. You see what I'm saying? Like I keep going on and on and on because my brain is thinking like there's so many different industries. So I would just simply say, whatever one that you're looking into, get with a coach, get with a mentor, and or, go to YouTube University and get the kindergarten steps of that exact, process that you want to do, whether it's fix and flip or buy a multifamily, and go from there.
Got it. Give me some numbers that you're considering.
Numbers. I agree. There's the real estate vernacular. There's so many different formulas, but it's a matter of the applicability of the formulas. You can learn them, understand what they mean, but when are they applicable to what you're looking at? This business is definitely a science. And if you want to focus primarily on the sales side, you can get the sales license. You want to go into development side, you could either learn it through the School of Hard Knocks over time with true capital at risk, and just learning, and then, or you could be like my daughter who wants to invest my money. I told her first she has to go to school so she can get her master's of real estate science, which she's completing right now, before she can actually start playing.
Yes, sir.
With our money, but applicability is key for me. For going back to that person that's at $50,000 income, plus or minus, if in they're in the early stages of real estate investment, I would tell them that to look at the return on investment, okay, and what it means to one person may mean something different to another person, and even today, some of those same metrics I use, 30 years later, as to how I look at a deal. So if you look at that return on investment, it could be a combination of what your cash on cash is. And so basically, David, if you put $100,000 of capital in a deal, is it yielding you? You may say, look, I want to have at least 10% made on my money. All right. Because if you look at your portfolio where you have diversified investments, whether stocks and bonds, if this investment that you're going in at risk is not going to outperform, what your financial advisor has been able to produce for you, okay, with them doing all the work, then why? Yeah. You might as well just take that $100,000 and put it, give it to your investment advisor, financial advisor, and let them continue to get you 10 to 12% annually, despite the cycles in the financial market. All right, so if you're averaging about 10% on your stocks and bonds, then why go invest in a deal that's probably going to return you maybe 8% or 7% on your money, just because you just like the deal or you want to help somebody out? That's not a prudent investment. Sure. You may say, hey, but I'm more interested in this next deal here. Yeah. Okay, that's actually going to pay me 12% or 14% on my money. And at that point, you're like, I can make another 4% more, $14,000 on $100,000 for a year, kind of like your deal in Jersey.
You feel me?
That's right.
I'm the bank.
Exactly. You're the bank, and you're controlling your destiny here. And the best thing that can happen for you, but the worst thing that can happen for the person who's investing is that halfway through it, they default and you own the property and you've been getting paid 14% the whole time. I mean, you really killing it. You're north of 20% return on this investment. So
I don't want that to happen, but I had to protect myself. That's what Floyd Mayweather said. Always protect yourself.
that's right.
But
At all times.
But we're talking about
At
real
all
estate.
times.
We're talking about real estate investment here. We can't just talk about the upside.
Yeah.
We got to also talk about the downside.
For sure.
Because people really don't like to talk about that. But then I look at my multiple, what that exit value looks like. All right. So if I invested $100,000 and I think that the horizon on this investment is 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, can I get a 1.5 or a 2 multiple or a 3 multiple?
Yeah.
All right. So if it's a 2 multiple, I can put in $100,000 in 3 years from an exit standpoint. I can make another $100,000. I'm like, man, I mean, that's huge. That's almost an internal rate of return over about 30-something%.
Yeah.
Okay. So on an annual basis, so that my investment banker can't get that for me, can't guarantee
sure,
that.
for
So
sure.
I can actually control my own investment in that situation.
Good. I think we have a caller, Nella.
Yes, we do have a caller. Welcome to Free Smoke. Marcy, you are on live with David and all his friends.
Marcy, what's up? Marcy?
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. How are you?
I'm great.
Good. How can we help you? What's your question?
Okay, so I've been wanting to get into wholesaling for a while, and of course, procrastination, overanalyzing. So that's kind of paralyzed me. But anyway, getting to the point where I am now, I think I found what I believe is my little niche for finding motivated sellers. Again, as you guys were talking, how can you get into real estate with no money? And so for me, the research that I found has shown that wholesaling is kind of the best avenue for that. I also have been doing short-term rentals, Airbnb properties for the past 5 years. So what I like about that is that I don't have any commitment with that, other than my lease, because I do it in a arbitrage method. So I'm not buying and holding anything. So I like that. And that's what attracts me to wholesaling as well. Just kind of an influx of cash. So what I've kind of come across lately is tax lien sales. And I've heard about it in the past, but more on the kind of buy and hold.
Hold on one second.
I
just wanted to
Go
check
ahead.
her. She's coming up with a question. Give her a second.
Okay,
she's
thank you.
actually about to ask a
All
question,
right,
I'm
let's
sure.
go.
All right, go for
Yes,
it.
sorry. So on the buy and wholesale side, but with tax liens, I thought about what about going to the tax lien, and I'm in the DC area, and I see so many of these properties going so quickly at a very low price. So I was like, what if I get on the side where the property is already sold, and go directly to the property owner, almost like a foreclosure list, and try to get the property sold that way. Is that a good method? I don't see any downside to that. I'm keeping the homeowner for possibly losing their property and foreclosing, as well as the investor still getting the property usually at a great rate, because these properties here, I mean, literally are going for $10,000, but the ARV is $600,000. And I'm looking at a huge list.
All right. Okay, cool. So your question is...
I mean, it's crazy. And so I'm also sad for
Hold
the
on,
community.
Marcy.
Okay, go ahead.
So your question is... You finished my sentence.
So my question is this a good, I don't see a downside, but for the experts, do you see this as a good wholesaling method to find like the motivated seller, as well as, because the homeowner now at this point has probably lost their property, and probably here is a 6-month foreclosure
Where you
in
live?
Florida. Well, so I'm in DC, and I'm also
Okay, hold
from
on, put a pin
Florida,
in
like
it.
Jacksonville.
Hold on real
Go
quick.
ahead.
I got your back. She wants to do tax sales and call the people before it goes to foreclosure, I believe. Is that a good strategy?
Just so we clear, we're giving information only.
Yeah, just
Please do your due diligence.
Okay, good.
FTC clearance.
I love the disclaimer.
Thank you. Okay, yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on tax liens?
So, I mean, it's a way to get started with real estate investing. There are wholesalers who do wholesale tax liens and tax deeds. The downside would be if you're wholesaling tax liens and tax deeds that don't have clear titles, and that you guys don't go to an appropriate title company and do the abstract to make sure that the titles are clear. But it is a lucrative business. You can pick up tax deeds for.
Hold on, how wouldn't it be cleared if the city is selling them?
That still don't mean it's clear. That does not mean it's clear. The city could have forgotten to give notice, right? Because you got to give public notice whenever a property go through this process. It don't just be, they take your property. Like, it got to be advertised for a certain amount of time, and the public got to have a certain amount of notice. And if they miss one step in the process, that is not, and a heir come back and dispute that is not a clear title anymore, right? So, so you want to make sure that you are doing your due diligence and making sure that the properties that you're buying is free and clear, and that, I find there was a situation where someone purchased a tax lien property in my coaching program, and they thought that they owned the actual property, and they did not. Okay, they own the lien on the property, which means that the borrowers still have a redemption period to come back and claim that property for a certain amount of time. Now, they'll get paid the interest that's paid on that, on whatever it is that is charged by the municipality. But in fact, they only have a lien position. They may not be in first lien position. They may be in fourth or fifth if there's all type of other liens in there. Yeah, so you want to make sure that you are doing your due diligence and that you are being able to, transfer properties that have free and clear title. That would be my advice on tax lien and tax deeds, and knowing the difference between them.
Yeah, great comeback there and advice. I've actually been in that situation where we had a property, large multifamily property, that had a tax abatement. Okay, so it didn't pay any property taxes. It was for seniors, affordable housing. And a lot of times these municipalities, county or city, parish, they can make mistakes. So for the first, 3 years of operation, we didn't pay taxes because there was a tax abatement. That was part of the subsidy that was structured in order for us to create this affordable housing. And so we didn't know what happened, but I guess sometimes there's change in management within the tax assessor's office, and they make a mistake. They felt as though that they started assessing their property taxes, but they were sending the notices to the wrong address also. So we never received the notices, okay, until we were apprised of them putting it, for sale on the courthouse steps.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Of course, we intervened immediately. And the good thing that happens is that when you do have a situation like that, all these law firms start sending you letters, how they could help you. And that's when we knew something must be wrong with this property. Why are we getting these letters? Right. And then realized, they made the call that guess what? Somebody, had purchased, the FIFA on our property. And we're like, we have a tax abatement. We have clear letter. Our lender, everybody, knows that this property has a tax abatement.
Yeah.
And basically they had made a mistake.
Yeah.
And so therefore, had we, not seen these letters coming in from these attorneys, and it would have been a situation where they would have sold the property, but yet they would have been at fault. They still wouldn't have gotten, the property.
Dang, so the almighty city makes mistakes.
They do.
It's crazy.
Absolutely.
All right, did I help Marcy? Is she still on?
Yeah, I just had one question. When it did help, and I wanted to ask Erica, I believe, when she said the title being clear. When you go to a reputable title company, because I worked with one before, do they not do all of that kind of research on like if all the liens that might be on the property? So as long as I get it to a reputable title company, they will be able to, make sure it's clean and clear.
The most common lien that's missed is grass liens, right? By the city and our county, wherever you're at, right? Like those are the ones we find as soon as we close, they're coming. And title companies, it's a guy and or a woman who's looking back at 30 years of records. They're human. They can make mistakes. And the ones that are the more obvious for us in the area that we in are the lawn care liens that the city imposed on properties. And so, yeah, I mean, you can find a reputable title company, and make, and get a like a warranty to be able to protect yourself and make them go back and clear up the title if somebody do file a claim against you. That's a part of title insurance that you pay for, and of course they'll be willing to do it. And then whoever owed those lawn care liens, they would have to either pay for it because they missed it, and or they would have to deal with the city on it or some sort of like that. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that helps so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Good question. I want to jump into. Do we have another caller yet?
We don't have another caller, but I have a question.
What's up? Talk to us.
Okay, so and
It's coming. The salmon's coming. I'll tell you right now.
Coming. So we all know tax season is coming around the corner. What would be a good strategy for those who may receive a tax refund that they could get started within the real estate industry?
Recap for me. I was distracted. The butterfly flew by me.
So people about to get their tax returns.
Yeah.
What kind of advice do you have? Because I mean, you're the queen of tax return investing because you started with your $5,000 tax return.
That's right. So let me tell you guys something. There are still properties out there dirt cheap. Like for those of you who's just trying to get started, go look at mobile homes. I mean, they're letting them go dirt cheap right now. So if you got a few $1,000s and you want to get started, go find a few mobile homes you can buy. I actually just got a notification that there was a mobile home that my daughter is buying right now. And she has 28 doors, and she's buying another mobile home right now for $1,200. And of course, she got to go move it and do all of that. But she's about to make $600 a month on that mobile home that she's about to move into her mobile home park that she invested into with me. So I think that if you have a tax,
I'm sorry, am I on that one? Is that the 28 unit?
No, that park is full. 100% occupied. This is another park.
News.
This
That's
is
good news.
Yeah.
I like occupied. Okay,
Yeah, we're
I'm
occupied.
an investor in
Yeah.
a 28-unit mobile home park.
Yeah.
And they cut that check every quarter.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, so, for those of you who out there, you about to get some extra cash, if you go on Facebook, they give mobile homes away for free. People say, just move it off my property. You can fix it up, do whatever you want.
Dang.
Just get it off. And if you got $2,000 or $3,000 and can pay a moving company to move it to a place that allows mobile homes, then now you in the rental business. You go fix it up, connect the water and the sewage, and you rocking and rolling. Everybody need a place to stay. It may not be pretty, but everybody need a place to stay.
I love that. I want to talk about the horror stories. Because I know you all are just astute, wealth. Y'all understand the game of real estate in and out. But they're
I
got
learn every day.
I want to hear the horror stories, man. Where was the blind spot? What did you miss? How did it hurt? Talk to me. Who want to start first?
I think everybody can start it.
Yeah.
So we would be remiss if we didn't share with you guys the challenges, horror stories, whatever label you want to assign to them. We have so many. In the 8 years, a couple thousand loans that we've cleansed. So a couple of things. Horror stories. We've had some investors who will manipulate documentation to get a loan. Obviously, that's a challenge. That's not
illegal,
the best
right?
thing. It's 100% illegal. Essentially, bank fraud.
Fast forward to the end. Did anybody go to jail?
No one went to jail, but it was essentially a civil case. Yeah, it was. Let's just say challenges. in addition to, we've had some horror stories where investors would just over leverage themselves. When we first started, there were some investors that they looked great on paper. Everything looked good about them. Experience, liquidity, credit. I mean, debt is fairly simple to obtain, right? You check a couple of boxes: credit, experience, liquidity. Does the project make sense? But we were novices as far as how much of a loan to give to in one person. So we essentially have folks overextend themselves. Learned the hard way very quickly that no matter how attractive someone looks on paper, they still can overextend themselves. There was one investor that we lent monies to, and I think at one point in time we had 13 loans out with him, defaulted on 10.
Oh.
So
how much was all that?
It was a lot. It was a lot. About $4 or $5 million. Took us a couple of years to kind of work through that because that was not a fun day. And so one of the things as a lender is we have to be very intentional about protecting our investors from themselves, because sometimes investors will become investors by definition are ambitious people, right? They're ambitious because they've taken the time, the resources, the know-how to go out and really create something for themselves and their family. But sometimes we have to be able to curb that ambition and say, hey, look, you know what? You've got too much on your plate. It took us the first 2 years to really understand that. No matter how attractive someone looks on paper, you still want to manage that relationship. Lending is a function of risk and leverage, right? What I mean by that is, on a lending side, we're trying to deploy as much capital as efficiently as we can. On the investor development side, they're trying to leverage their resources so therefore they can go out and acquire more properties. So there's this little dance that we have to keep doing. But yeah, that was definitely a challenge for us. And so we decided that we have a number for renovation loans that we don't let folks go over because it just kind of allows for that. It happened.
How much? But you got to acquire.
Yeah, we have the properties back. The properties back, but it's still the fees that you have to now hire an attorney. You have to go through the process. You have to go through all those things to kind of recoup that. No lender wants to go into foreclosure. Well, most lenders don't. Let me rephrase that. Most lenders do not want to, because it's an expensive process. And lenders are not asset managers for the most part. We don't manage properties. We don't want those properties back. We will do everything in our power to try to help the borrower resolve whatever issue that they may have, whether it's they're delinquent, whether they're about to default. Hey, what can we do? We have someone, we get very creative. We have another investor who finds this project attractive. Would you be open to joining forces with them? So we got to try to figure this out.
Did you make money on this deal?
Which one? No. We lost. We lost a lot. And that's part of lending.
You had to take the property and like sell them for cheaper than that?
Yeah, we sold for cheaper than that, but we still lost because it's the time value of money at that point. So obviously, at some point, the capital that you have in the deal is going to start to diminish because you've held on to that capital for longer than you needed to. So it's a wash. We lost money, and it's okay. You want to make more than you lose, but things like that happen. Yeah. So that's definitely one of our biggest, I guess, horror stories, because it was not a fun time going through it. But it did teach us one thing, that investors. We have to be very responsible as to how much we lend to one specific investor at any point in time. Gotcha. And we are very diligent. We are very intentional about the experience level of said investor. So when we lend monies, we want to, especially if it's like a commercial development project, we're looking at that investor's level of experience. We pay a lot of attention to that. Now when interest rates have risen, a lot of lenders they're even more discriminating as to who they lend monies to because those rates have risen. And they want to make certain that they're working with operators and developers that really understand how to kind of get these projects to the finish line.
Got it. Well, let's go with Eddie, because I heard the phrase, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. It seems like you got a lot of risk in the game. But, I guess not a lot of your capital, because you be coming up with money from
there's always capital.
Yeah.
There's always this.
Give me your
the word is leverage here. Leverage doesn't mean no capital of yours.
Yeah.
That means you're just getting a little bit more capital to put with your capital.
Gotcha. Give me your biggest L most recently.
Biggest L? Oh man, I can't say most recently. it's a function of time. Just going through the recession, what we went through, that was a major L. Anybody who was a player in the real estate development industry, if they didn't take an L at some point, somehow, that was punitive, that hurt really bad, that means they weren't doing anything.
So you don't take
in
L's
the great
these
times.
days. You don't take.
We do
losses
take
these-
L's, but you said the biggest. The biggest was surviving the recession because
Look
it was
triggering, man.
consecutive years. So if people talk about the recession being 07, 08, no, for us it went through 2013.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was like every year. Just imagine realizing that, man, I'm still in the L. I still have all these other threats out there that I haven't worked out with lenders. You know, we're trying to figure it out, but yet you still have all the headwinds that are created with the recession to make it very difficult to still do deals. So, thus, to me, it wasn't just one L. It was a continuous, set of L's.
Yeah.
All right, for multiple years. But what I would add to what Kenneth said is that, at the end of the day, it's important to really look at your partner, compatibility.
Yeah.
Who your partners are from a compatibility standpoint. That's where you see a lot of repeat L's take place. A lot of repeat L's take place with incompatibility between partners. Just because that person has the money that you want them to invest in your deal, just because they're interested in your deal or you're interested in their deal, doesn't mean that they're the right partner. For you to work with.
But give me your loss. I want people to know a lesson that you learned recently. Give me a
lesson
loss.
that I learned recently from a loss. Really just a merger and acquisition. Okay, it would seem like the right addition, to our business, the right diversification, but at the same time, it was incompatible as far as just the business vision, the approach, to managing the business and growing it, and even just some of the ethos.
Yeah.
Then between our company ethos and their company ethos, it just didn't mesh. Yeah. But did we actually do business and could make money? Yes. And we realized that if we actually want to grow this, then at some point we would hit a point of resistance because of the fact that we were coming from two different sets of expectations.
Yeah, got it. All right. First off, how's the salmon?
It's so good.
It's good, ain't it? Yo, y'all
I'm
got,
talking about my biggest loss.
okay, talk to me. Talk to me. Oh, real quick. We want to shout out all of our super chats. Listen, everybody who gives a super chat, we are taking a portion of the money and I am investing in youth entrepreneurs. We have our first school date, I want to say January 8th. January 8th will be at Martin Luther King High School. Now, the kids don't know it, but we're bringing in my successful entrepreneur friends to let them see how entrepreneurship looks, how entrepreneurship can work for them. And we are going to be investing. Hopefully there's a kid that we can invest in, but we are investing your super chats into you. So shouts out, of course, to the real Elisa Applewhite. She's in the building too, so she can ask a question whenever she wants to.
Thanks for the
Thank you for all the super chats. Who else we got? We got Elisa Applewhite.
We have Let Kids Play podcast, the Activity Playhouse.
Ayana, what up? Thank you for putting the seed in the
And
ground.
then we also have Braids by Joya Bean. Thank you so much. We greatly appreciate y'all's support.
Appreciate the love.
Look, y'all, drop the super chats because they giving y'all all free game. Hit that like button because there's more than 100 of y'all, but we only got 70 likes, and I'm not feeling that right now.
Free
All right,
smoke out
hit
here.
that like button. And go ahead and text your questions in so that we can go ahead and get them answered for you because y'all got free game sitting right here on this couch.
Absolutely. Also, shouts out to So Icy. So Icy, the cheesesteaks are absolutely. How guys? What's up? How we doing?
Oh, they're good. The salmon,
Your authentic review.
that salmon is
All right,
good.
come on out real quick because we're actually. So we're gonna get a building, but I'm gonna buy the building. Don't worry, and I'm gonna give us a good rate for rent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, got tell everybody about the business. What you got going on? Come on, Zell, fix this camera.
Come right here. I'm a little new to this. We're a little new to this, but we from. All right.
Zell, come over here. Yeah. We good?
Right there.
Oh, all right.
you good?
Yeah. We from Philly. We do cheesesteaks, water ice. Dave is helping us with our brand right now. We're in the Ghost Kitchen. It's my partner, Swee. We're from Philly, so we authentic. That's the garlic pepper honey salmon. You had the beef, the chicken.
Garlic, pepper, honey, salmon,
Yeah.
cheesesteak. Goodness.
That's from mommy back from Philly.
For sure.
Philly, so
That's the real deal.
I'll be at home.
That's the real deal. Everybody from West Philly.
Y'all own any real estate?
No, we don't.
Not
So
yet.
huh?
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. That's something we was talking about, like getting the capital. So we didn't really have the means to get the storefront. So the Ghost Kitchen was like another step. So the food industry, you try to get your food truck and get your working capital, but they giving shark loans and interest and different things like that. So it's kind of hard.
Hard money.
We do other loans than that. We do other loans. That's not all we do.
Well, not. You do working capital.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's a
We
little
do
better.
way more.
Yeah, maybe it's a little better. But we had a food truck which was seasonal.
Yeah.
So having a seasonal business and not having that cash flow consistent, that kind of will stop you and impede you in the food truck industry and trying to scale up. But this is our first year in the Ghost Kitchen, and we did pretty well and grew pretty quickly. So now it's just about getting systems in place, getting around people like Dave, you yourself, and learning the business. Because if you know McDonald's, their business is real estate. It's not even food anymore.
Yeah.
So understand that's something that we need to learn about as 28, 27-year-old entrepreneurs.
Yep. It's all good. So you got anything for me, man?
Nah, man, you pretty much covered everything.
Oh, well, that's what it is, man. We appreciate it, man.
I appreciate
Congrats.
y'all.
Any extras? This is not like just a grab and run. The extras is coming to my house. Okay,
Yeah.
they're coming to my home. My wife
For
said.
sure. Yeah.
She said, hey, bring that
and
back.
we're located in Decatur, 2670 East College Ave in Decatur.
Okay.
Hey, support
And,
these brothers, man.
Yes,
Please.
sir. Thank y'all.
Cool. T.
Yeah.
The L's.
The L's. Ooh. I would say my biggest L was building my portfolio with the wrong business partners. And for me, I lost quite a substantial amount of money. I would have been closer to probably 2,000 investments had everything went perfect. But it was at a season where, and I kind of talked about this on the podcast, where, partnerships require certain responsibilities. And you have to keep your responsibility up no matter what season you're going through. Like, I don't understand if your role is credit and, funding, and you can't provide credit or funding, then what is your role here? And so for me, it got to a point where I was in a partnership, but it felt like I was doing all of the work and I was the only partner. And when I called it out, you had, the housewives that came, because a lot of my business partners are men. So, you can't compete with pillow talk. And it ended, with me saying, okay, the best thing for me to do is if I have to start back at zero and get rid of all of these partners, then I would definitely do that. So I am very conscious of who I go into business with. Even last night at the party, everybody was like, oh, that's Terica. She the ghost. She gonna help you do this. Nah. If you want to learn, I can teach you through a coaching program, but you can't be my business partner. You know what I'm saying? It's a certain type of human that can be my business partner because I know how much I bring to the table.
Yeah.
And if that partnership is unequally yoked, one of the partners is going to start resenting each other, and then it's just not going to be a great situation. Sure. And so I find, my biggest haircuts in real estate has been choosing the wrong business partners to do JV deals with and different partnership deals with. And the other thing is knowing that these people are costing you X amount of dollars, but you keep them close because you're in business with someone that's close to you, that's your friend, or you know what I'm saying, or y'all been best friends for so long, or it's your cousin or uncle, whatever, it don't really matter, but you know that they're not a good business partner, but you keep justifying why they not doing what they doing, and then before you know it, you starting to lose money. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I also had another business partner who was supposed to oversee all of the property management, and they wasn't sending out invoices. They wasn't managing the property correctly. And that was from me just trusting, right? And believing that you're going to do exactly what you said you were going to do, because you're a partner. I shouldn't have to babysit you to make money into our entity. And so I think having those difficult conversations up front and having a clear understanding and making sure that your operating agreement is very clear and that it states exactly what the roles and responsibilities are is extremely important. And I had another deal where we had a cash call on a flip property, and it was because the property, they removed the swimming pool and then we had a sinkhole. Literally, I thought the house was going under. Okay, like I didn't know what to do, you know. And so
hold on, you bought it, then they removed
we removed the pool because it was a bad pool.
Yeah.
They had water going up underneath it. It was just a bad situation. It ended up costing, when it came out, like the ground just went in. So that was not in the budget. So now we have a cash call. Right, we can't go back to the bank and get no more money. We have to figure this out internally. Well, the partners say, I don't have any more money. What do you do? I mean, I can't just let it sit.
Yeah.
I gotta do the deal. So guess what? Now I gotta put more money in there. This is me being naive. I didn't know. Whenever you do a cash call and your partners don't contribute the same contribution, then you have to renegotiate the terms of that operating agreement and that equity that is owned by that partner. I didn't do that because I didn't know that. I just put the money up to get through the process. Well, after I put the money up, we get to closing. Homeboy got amnesia. He forgot we had a sinkhole and we had to put more money in. So you know what happened? We had to go to court.
Wow.
Yeah. So guess what? I had to split it down the middle with him, everything.
Wow.
So for me, I have had my share of bad partnerships, and people think I'm acting funny. I'm not acting funny. I'm just educated now.
Yeah.
I understand what a bad partnership can do to you. So I am very cautious of who I get into business with. And so if you're just getting into business with people you don't know, you better make sure that you have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed, and make sure you have a witness or attorney, somebody that's reviewing everything you going into business with, because I had to learn that the hard way. And it cost me thousands of dollars that I did not have, but it was the best education that I ever learned. I wouldn't have learned that no other type of way. And like I said, I was a hustler in my business for a long time. That's part of the hustling process, getting them haircuts, not knowing all of those things. But yeah.
Every L is a lesson, man. Listen, I think I want y'all to throw it in the chat, man. What are your real estate goals for 2024? I appreciate everybody coming out today, man. I know everybody's super busy, but just giving people game, giving people a vision of what their life could look like when they start leveraging their income, man. So thank y'all. Listen, we have any more calls? We got no calls? Good. All right, so let's close it out, man. Please, if there's anything that we didn't cover that you think you wanted to discuss, please just share that in our closing words. And Eddie, I'll start with you, my brother.
Man, first, I really would love to congratulate, my brother and sister here for their accomplishments. I know I've been in this business a little bit longer than them, but I have to underscore, how challenging it is, especially for Black men and women to succeed in this business, despite what your beginnings were, okay, and to also make it through the recession, go through the different cycles that are going on in the financial market. So I couldn't spend a better early afternoon on a Friday sitting here with you guys and talking about, the business and sharing these nuggets with, your audience. But, at the end of the day, you have to really do, your due diligence. Due diligence of self, due diligence of the deal, and due diligence of the partners that are investing with you. And when you look at, we talked about wealth. At the end of the day, it's not just the financial wealth, as far as Kenneth said and Terica said. It's really, to me, when I look at wealth creation, I look at just my my personal, just how I show up as an individual as far as my life's balance sheet. Okay, not the financial balance sheet that he reviews. My life's balance sheet as far as, how do I show up as an asset, and how do I show up, from a liability standpoint. And so how am I an asset, to my family, to those who are associates in our company, growing others, making the next, millionaires. How do I show up to even my friends who want to invest with me or figure out how to invest into the real estate business, the community, and even from a liability standpoint, not just how much debt do we have, but there's a correlation to your wealth based on how much debt you have also. Nobody who's wealthy is debt free, okay? And so you got to take risk, in order to get the high rewards. But also just the debt back to just community and society from a philanthropic standpoint. Just your success as far as sharing it to, different concerns, different nonprofits, that need the support. And so for me, my life balance sheet is what I look at, from a wealth standpoint, not just the financial side. So
Sure. Man, appreciate you, my brother. How can they connect with you? How can they follow you and just follow your journey?
Yeah, sure. I'm on Instagram, Eddie Benoit Jr., EDDYBENOIT JR. But I'm also, you could follow us on LinkedIn under Eddie Benoit. You could pull me up. And lastly, you could follow us on Shape the Deal. That is Shape, SHAPE, The Deal. It's on YouTube, where we have different shows that focus on the different facets and the dynamics of real estate development. And so we love to have you follow us and where we can drop some nuggets on some of those shows.
Love it, love it. Kenneth, talk to us, man. Let them know where they can get that hard money.
First of all, oh God, I deserve it. I deserve it.
That's where they can get the hard money from, David.
But David's a hard money lender too now.
That is a hard money lender now. Yeah.
You know.
You were in our shoes. First of all, I want to thank you for having me on the show, and also having these wonderful folks on the show as well, for us to have this dialogue that is always needed and can never not be needed. I know it's a double negative, but it is what it is. I'm very optimistic about everything, especially with real estate investing. I have to be. I think all of us are. We know we've got some challenges we're going through right now. We'll get through it. It's just it's a moment in time. It's something that we will have to just kind of work through as we have done on so many occasions. But again, I still am very optimistic about where we're heading on so many levels, with so many folks as well, with all the information, all the education, and now the fact that folks are very open and amenable to learning about real estate investing in a professional way, right? In a professional manner, and understanding that there are different facets and different avenues in which you can come to or introduce yourself into real estate. To find me, I'm not really on social media. I know it's funny these days, but I am on LinkedIn.
It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
I don't want Instagram either.
There's so many. I think I'm on Instagram.
Sure.
I think I have an Instagram page. It's just, there's so many to keep up with. So you can find me on LinkedIn. Just type in Kenneth Igwe. There's only one of me, so it's a very unique last name. So I'd love to have a conversation or discourse or about those things as well.
Cool. Appreciate it. All right, T. Yes, you are. You're an influencer now. So
Yeah, I will leave with this, just understanding the importance of ownership. Ownership is your birthright. I believe that everybody should experience ownership. I believe everybody should have ownership. I believe we should pass ownership. And with that, it is so easy to get caught up in these cute little quotes and things they post on TikTok and YouTube and all these major influencers, who we all love and respect. They have a lot of great advice, but at the end of the day, the people with the ownerships are the ones being called to the tables to have decisions, to make decisions about things that's going on within your community. So if you're wondering why you don't have a voice, you're wondering why all these different things are taking place and you're not happy about it, you wondering why they keep placing liquor stores in your community and all of these things that's tearing down your communities, then the reason is because you have no ownership and they don't care about your opinion. And that's the God honest truth. And so I think it's important for you to understand, when you accept the fact that you should have ownership, no matter what shape or form it comes in, you starting down the path of real estate investing and creating that ownership is going to change the trajectory of not just your life, but everybody that's attached to you. Because I made one decision to invest my $5,000 tax return, my children now have forever income if they handle it correctly. And now my great grandchildren is going to be able to have it because I was obedient with investing my tax return. I have street signs named after my children. They have communities that's named after them. And all of that is possible because I own the roads. So ownership is important in all aspects. So if you can own anything, start with owning yourself and then your time and your money.
T, you actually, January, you got a challenge coming up.
I do.
Challenge.
Yes.
propertychallenge.com. I think it's just incredible. So I don't know if you all know, but she's like teaching people this real estate. And I'm a big advocate for it because she literally helped me build out my real estate portfolio and helped me make my first monies in real estate after getting burnt in real estate. So I'm always wanting to promote what she's done for me and a lot of my friends now. A lot of influencers. She's like getting them real estate deals, multi-units. It's really, really cool. So you want to talk about the challenge?
Yeah. So the 5-day property challenge is 5 intensive days with me, and we're going to be breaking down mindset. We're going to be breaking down how to find deals, how to analyze deals, how to get funding for deals, and then most importantly, within those 5 days, challenging you to be the very best version of yourself and being able to go to the next level. The 5-day property challenge is for those who are new in real estate, have experience in real estate, and are just looking to scale into communities or developments, whatever it is you're looking to get into. We touch on all aspects during the 5 days. And so if you're willing to go on a date with me for 5 days, you got to be willing, right? We're going to go in, and I promise you I will not miss a day. We will ride till the wheels fall off and help you with your ownership journey in 2024. thepropertychallenge.com.
There it is. Check it out, y'all. Check it out. So listen, man, Nella, what's happening?
He just put it on me. First and foremost, y'all, make sure you go ahead and follow all of these amazing people. Drop some fire in the chat. Drop some houses in the chat, whether it's a whole house or a crack house, whichever one. Drop it in the chat because they came and gave you guys the game. But, of course, we got some stuff for y'all too, right? Make sure you go ahead and join the morning meetup. The morning meetup, the one and only community that is made for entrepreneurs. We meet every single Monday through Friday, 7:45 a.m. We got a book club. We got like-minded people. We have amazing speakers like the ones you see right here in this studio joining us almost every week because, David got to show up too, right? David shows up there, and he's there every single morning too with us, getting all these gems, giving all the gems, and we all learn and grow together. But we have to ask you guys what conversations you want to hear from us, all right? This isn't just about us because, I'm in here writing those too. But we want to make sure you guys are getting the gems that you want to receive as well. So drop in the comments what conversations you want to hear on this couch so that we can go ahead and provide that for you. David, take us out.
There it is. So listen, y'all, free smoke. We are giving free information midday. Listen, y'all at work right now. We start at 12 o'clock around your lunch break. I want you to go on your lunch break and watch us while you're there because you're going to come back with a new attitude, not an attitude of disgust for your job. okay? But you're gonna be inspired and motivated to go do something special, okay? You will not be there forever unless you want to be. But you need to learn the game on how to build wealth and how to become successful in whatever it is you want to do. So we love you all. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you join our membership. We're dropping content as a member. You can look on the channel. You can see join. Couple different levels. Again, money goes to assisting youth entrepreneurs in their journey so that they too can be the ones that rule the world financially. Okay, we got to teach them young. We got to teach them young. So we are investing in the next generation of entrepreneurs. And the people that we're investing in now, you never know, those will be the people that will assist your kids, okay? So be a member, man. Whatever donation you have works, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome.
Where'd you go? I thought you were going to ask a question.